By the title and thumbnail of this video, you probably think I'm insisting that the MVP has to go to Nikola Jokic. It's actually the opposite. The truth is, it shouldn't be that way, and yes, Jokic in an ideal world should win MVP. However, if we want to be fair to past players snubbed by voter fatigue and maintain the current precedent of the award, it's gotta go to Shai. The reason why there's always seemingly two great candidates for the MVP on a yearly basis is because there's no consistent criteria for how it should be awarded. It's always a collision course between the player on the best team, which this year is Shai, although I guess you can argue that's technically Donovan Mitchell, which we'll get into, and then the player with the most godly numbers, which is Jokic. The most famous cases of this scenario playing out in history is one in 2018, Harden on the 1 seed 65-win Rockets, who wins MVP, over LeBron, who finished second in voting, being seen as the better player, but the Cavs were just a 4 seed, which led to Harden getting 86 first place votes to LeBron's just 15. Funny enough, we could then use the year before 2017 to see the inverse of this, where it was Russ with the gaudy stats of averaging a triple-double for the 6 seed Thunder, winning over James Harden, who led Houston to the 3 seed with also no all-star help around him. And what I'll say on this is, I know some fans will look at this and have a field day blaming voters saying, this is why it sucks, there's no consistent voting, blah blah. But the reality is, I actually think the voters always get it right. And I'm kind of hesitant to say that, but almost always right, especially when you factor in the context is in the present moment. Now sure, 2017, would I have said it was the wrong pick to choose Harden? No, but it certainly wasn't a mistake to pick Russ. Some years such as that, either guy you picked would be fine. And this is coming from someone who's really closely followed the NBA since only 2016, so don't come at me with Steve Nash for Shaq in 2005. I was 2 years old. I am a basketball historian, and I know past examples, but I'll choose to only speak on the years where I've been tapped in with the daily news cycle and storylines. And in this last decade, I think the voters have picked the right guy every year, even if it was a toss-up at 50-50, and it was you couldn't go wrong with either or. When it comes to that 2018 season that's heavily debated by Bron fans thinking, oh, he should have easily won. Guys, I'm going to be so real as a Bron Glazer myself. This is revisionist history. It was clear in the moment Harden deserved MVP. The Rockets won 65 games in a stacked West with the KD Warriors. It wasn't even really much of a debate at the time, as you know, too. I don't understand this revisionist history that's going on with this particular Harden versus LeBron debate. Let's use that 2017 MVP debate between Harden and Russ to drive my point about this. In that case, Harden only had the 3 seed as the quote-unquote best player on the best team guy that season because their real best team was the Warriors, and none of them were getting the award with that roster. So it left the door open for the player who produced the most to win, and of course, averaging a triple-double with how novel it was at the time to see, made it go to him. Although I know, yes, Harden basically averaged a triple-double. I think it was 29, 11, and 8. But we love round numbers, I guess, as human beings, so, oh well. With all that being said, though, the MVP, yes, should ideally only factor in individual success. The fact that team success was ever dragged into this is kind of a joke. Because I briefly touched on earlier, take Donovan Mitchell. The Cavs are 55-10 if you haven't been paying attention, better than OKC's 53-12 record, yet you literally hear no love for Spida because his base stats are pretty unjaw-dropping at just 24-4-4. If he were averaging 37-7, Donovan would be the clear-cut favorite for MVP, as sad as it is that we care about base stats this much. Another example, Devin Booker in 2022. The Suns won 64 games that year, yet the consensus top 3 candidates were Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis that season. So we ideally shouldn't just hand the award over to Shai just because they're 11 games up or 12 games up on Denver. However, voter fatigue is a precedent that's already been set throughout NBA history, so I don't think I love the idea of us just now all of a sudden breaking that when it comes to Jokic. Because this is exactly what MJ and LeBron faced throughout their career, so I actually think even though it's not fair, that it's fine to play into the narrative of, oh, yeah, Shai and OKC are 11 games up on Denver, let's give it to Shai. It's specifically what Jordan ran into in 97. Karl Malone had no business beating him out on MVP, but it ended up being a close race where Malone got 63 first place votes to Mike's 52. And Karl only really ended up winning thanks to him being 33 at the time and never having yet won the award. It was almost like a sympathy vote of, give an all-time great one MVP, although he would win another 2 years later in 99, despite having less wins than MJ's Bulls and worse numbers. It just wouldn't be an accurate depiction of NBA history to look back and see MJ with 5 MVPs, LeBron with 4, and then Jokic have 6 or 7 if we don't want to factor in voter fatigue for just him based on how things are going. Also, the reality of this whole conversation is Shai will win the MVP. Any debate you see on national TV broadcasts, podcasts, etc. won't change that. Right now, Shea is a minus 600 favorite to win the award with a Joker at plus 430, and there's not that much season left. We're only a month away from the end, with each team only having roughly 13 to 15 games remaining. Then just think about the surface level view of these two guys. One is a 1 seed in the West that has an 11.5 game lead on the other team. Shea also has a worse second option than the Joker has in Jamal Murray, at least offensively in J-Dub, Jalen Williams. And look how many games Chet has missed this year. So I think the narrative will actually be better for Shea, even though the numbers clearly tell us that Denver's supporting cast is way worse. I touched on this in a video last month, but here's the updated on-off numbers when it comes to Jokic and Shea. When the Joker's on the floor, Denver has a minus 9.7 net rating, which are ranked 29th in the league, only ahead of the Wizards. When Shea's off the floor, OKC still has what would be the 9th best net rating at plus 2.9. I mean, that's a big difference. One team is literally borderline the worst team in basketball without them. The other has a still top 10 squad when he's not on the floor. Which, by the way, just speaks to how truly stacked OKC is. I mean, like we've talked about, they've had the injuries to Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. And then even when Shea's off the floor, with those two guys being out for like a lot of the season, they've still been so dominant. That's literally all you need to know for why Jokic deserves MVP. I mean, we've never seen on-off numbers like this in NBA history, and this has been a thing now for 5 seasons, going on since 2020-21 for a half a decade. This isn't new. Then people like to talk about MVP moments. I mean, he just dropped 31 points, 21 rebounds, and 22 assists in an overtime thrilling win over Phoenix last Friday. 31 points, what did I just say? 31, 21, 22 is crazy. So tying this episode together, does Jokic deserve MVP if we just ignore history and purely objectively look at this season specifically versus Shea's? Yeah, he does. But because of history, I want Shea to win it, and I think swerving precedent now would distort NBA history, and honestly, I think the variety in MVP winners is just good for the sport. The beautiful thing is, it's already going to happen. Like, I love what we think these conversations are actually going to change anything. Nuggets fans could be as mad as they want. It's still going to go to Shea. It probably was already decided at like the All-Star break. Maybe even like, I would say like mid-January that he was going to win it.